Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and today we are going to be doing my September 2024 monthly musings. This is where I talk about some things life-related, books that I read during the month, and then of course we have tarot. I'm going to start here with life. I always start with life, so if people want to kind of skip ahead or whatever, you can. It's not going to be in the middle or anything like that. But my life, what happened to me in the month of September? I guess the better question might be to ask what didn't happen to me in the month of September. It was just not... It wasn't my greatest month. It wasn't the worst month, but it definitely felt the most downhill out of all the months. Since the school, well, I guess since summer, I don't know. September. Why does it do this? I mean, it's kind of funny because I did do a couple of interesting life things, I feel like I did a couple of excursions and dates with my husband, Daryl, but for whatever reason it was, I don't know. I had some fun things, like I did see the Transformers movie that was in theaters, animated one, but a Transformers one. I saw Inside Out 2. Did like both of those for the most part, although I don't think the Inside Out 2 was as good as the first one, but it's still good about talking about anxiety in general. And yeah, I did go on a couple dates, even went to like a Portuguese historical museum picnic thing. That was pretty cool. Did do that. I did for sure. But the thing is, the reason why September was not the greatest is once again has to do with my health. In September though, I did come to a breakthrough about what that could be. So I basically know now it's pretty much related to probably having like to be TMI here, it's probably related to having IBS because I am already autistic, and a crazy percentage of autistic people, like I'd say it's between 40 and 80%, big margin, but a lot of autistic people end up having IBS for some reason. I don't know why. I've always had issues with my stomach, but this past year in particular, it's just not been doing great. I've literally, this month alone, had to call out of work a couple times because my health was just miserable. I was basically having what I think was IBS flare-up. Not great. It is what it is now. I'm just trying to move past it, but yeah. So some fun things in life, but also some not fun things, and also some diet change things, and it's just been a rough and weird time. Even with my work, I had a coworker who left, and even that was like sudden and weird, and it's just a lot of things, and I've been very overstimulated. So yeah, that's life. But if I'm not talking about life, let's talk about books. What books did I read this past month? I actually have a good pile here. I read 5 books. Yeah, 5 books. We will start with, I'll start with the top one and then go from there, okay? The first book that I read during the month of September was this one. Technically, I started in August, but I did finish it in September, so I'm counting it then. This is Will You Give Me a Reading? This is a book by Jenna Matlin, and it is actually produced by Llewellyn. Yeah. Is what it is. This book, overall, I think I would give this book a 4.5. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I do recommend it for people who are thinking of reading for other people and you have not read for other people previously, or even if you have read for others previously and you just kind of want, I don't know, just a little more guidance on what to expect or what could potentially happen when you're giving readings for other people. I thought this was actually very informative. I think there were only there may have been only 2 things with the book. I wasn't sure how I felt about it. The first was, I'm not 100% sure where I sit with the idea of people. There's a whole chapter about like readers who also say they're psychic, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't really know. That was the only thing. It's like I have no basis of this. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if I could even claim I am or not. We joke about people who are psychic or have strong intuition or anything like that. I just don't know where my thoughts are on that. So that's kind of like an iffy point. And the other thing with this book was that the only like big disagreement I have with this book is that the author, who is a professional tarot reader, she was saying that basically you should never give people general readings. And I don't 100% agree with that, because it depends on, I think it depends on why someone's getting the reading. I think it depends in the sense of, is this a professional reading? Okay, fine. If it's professional, maybe you don't want to just give them a general reading. But if you're giving a reading for yourself, if you're giving a reading for others and it's general, they don't have a question for you. They just want to know what the cards are saying in the moment, right? What's going on in your life generally, like just a quick check-in. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think we always need to be so serious with our cards. You can decide that you just want a quicker reading, or just like something that's more general overview because you don't know what to ask tarot yet, right? You could just be curious and not necessarily want to go out there and press your tarot reader to give you a reading if you don't actually know what you want a reading on. You know what I mean? So for that reason, 4.5, liked most of the points, just don't 100% agree with the author's stance on general card readings. But that is what it is. Next up, after that, I read Le Fay. Oh my goodness, I've been meaning to read this. Okay. This is by Sophie Keach. I think it's pronounced Keach. But anyways, this is Le Fay. This is technically the second book. Although it doesn't say it's like a second book. As you can see, it doesn't say it's a second book. But this is technically a second book. The first book in question was called Morgan Is My Name. I actually talked about it on this channel a while ago. It is a story that is... It's a retelling, okay? It's a retelling of Morgan Le Fay. And this is book 2, basically, of that. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't read this series yet. But I really liked this one. I was just like, yes, I'm here for it. I understand. I like it a lot. I'm here for it. And I decided, this is just me personally, I decided to give this book a 5 because I was fully invested. I liked what was happening. I didn't want to put it down. Now, just because I give it a 5, though, doesn't mean I don't have a thing or two I do think could be improved in this. Specifically, so Morgan has... One of the things with Morgan is that she has a love interest that is outside of her law-given marriage, okay? She was basically forced to marry this guy, and he's like an abusive dude, so don't be like, don't jump quickly on this, but she has a relationship with this other guy who basically is obsessed with her, loves her. I loved all that with it. It is just sad. I don't want to spoil a bunch of things, but they do, but they don't end up together. I don't want to say what happens, but that part I was just like, oh man, I knew it was coming. But because of that whole thing, it put her in contention with a lot of people. One critique, I guess, is I don't like how her and Arthur's relationship was really explored in this book. Arthur as her brother, there's a lot that was going on there that I feel like got brushed under the rug, and he didn't actually get a lot of screen time, which I think is weird. Like, why wouldn't he, Especially because I don't know, I just felt like there was a lot more that could have been done there. That's my biggest complaint, is just her and Arthur's situation could have been fleshed out a little bit better. Even though I'm telling you guys, this is my biased 5, but I truthfully concede that they just needed a little bit more there. I just didn't have enough depth or something. That was my biggest complaint. And I really is saying I'm a lot of ums today because I'm at the end of my day and my brain has shut out. But my biased 5, I did like this book a lot. Not sure where it's going to go from here, though, for the next one, but I'm here for it. This has a lot of the action, though. Oh, I also didn't believe how quickly they were to, like, completely throw Morgan under the bus. Again, it's more things that go on with Arthur. It's like, why did you develop him like that? You could have developed him better. I don't know. It just felt strange. But despite that, I love this, guys, and would definitely recommend this to other people. So, LaFay, this was good. But after LaFay, I read a book called PESSI. This book has been on my TBR for so long, you guys don't even know, okay? It's been on my TBR a long time, and I just haven't had a chance to read it until now, okay? But PESSI, I gave this book, at the end of the day, I gave this book a 4-star, and let me kind of explain why. First off, this book is not going to be a book for everyone, straight up. It is not, because this is basically a book that's like almost no plot, but all vibes. So if you are someone who doesn't like books that sometimes have vibes more than an actual plot, this is not going to be for you, okay? Another thing with this book that I feel like would piss people off in the very beginning, and I can even show this. I think it's like as soon as the first page. This book did a weird thing really early on where it decided to do some weird ass capitalization. So look at this book. There's just a lot of random capitalization of things that don't need to be capitalized. For instance, like walls, a Western wall, myself, like why is that capitalized? All these like weird capitalizations, especially in the beginning of the book, were so annoying. If you didn't turn your brain off to all the capitalizations, this would have immediately stopped you from reading this book. Just saying. This is a fantasy, by the way, and it is called PESSI because there's only a few characters in this book. Myself, who you find out later, you find out his real name. There's the other who also has a real name. And then there's the prophet. And then who else is in here? There's like this other female character. I forget her name, but she's also in here. There's not very many characters, but basically you get the idea very early on that PESSI, or myself, was trapped in this house, in this subliminal space where the house is always flooding and there's these creepy statues everywhere, and the only other things alive in this place really are birds or the sea creatures that he eats, to stay alive. And he's taking a bunch of scientific notes, and there's stuff with that in there too. But this is a very low stakes book in some ways, because a lot of the action that happens doesn't really happen until the end. So if you're curious, I did give this book, like I said, 4 stars, because I do think the world building, like the setting details and the house being even a character, it felt like a character, it felt alive in a lot of ways, were really fascinating to me. And I don't mind the note format, like it was written like journal style. I don't mind that. But some of the things that kind of bothered me, again, was like that weird capitalization. It was more of a problem in the beginning of the book, but if you don't get through that, you can't enjoy the rest of the book, okay? And I also think that the villains and the MC needed to be explained a little bit better. You basically find out that the guy, I don't want to spoil too much, but you find out that somebody trapped him in the subliminal space, okay, the guy. Myself, he got trapped there. And the villain in question who did this was supposed to be this guy who convinced a bunch of people that there was like a tear in the world and this subliminal space was in there. But it wasn't explained very well at the same time. Like, I kind of had to pick that up, but it wasn't explained clearly. And I kind of just wish that was explained a bit better. Because I don't understand why people gave a shit about the guy. Like, why was he important? Why did he have a cult following? They kind of talk about it, but it's not... I don't know. I just don't understand what was actually motivating him. It was just very strange. So, for that reason... I don't know. That's why I gave it a 4. Just very complicated thoughts on PESSI, but otherwise, I did really like it. And if you, again, like more books that are vibes instead of plot, this will probably be your thing. But yeah, PESSI. Then, I read The Book Eaters. This is a book by Sun Yi Dean. This author actually used to be in my writing Discord that I was in. I don't know if she's there anymore now. I don't know. But anyways, this is why I originally decided to put this book on my TBR. But this is another fantasy, but specifically this is more like I would actually call this more speculative fiction. It takes place in our world and there's some like sciencey aspects in here too. This is a really interesting book, but this is about the idea of people existing on our earth who aren't actually people at all. They are book eaters. To survive, they actually have to physically grab a book and chomp on it. And that's what keeps them alive. They literally have to eat books to survive. They don't eat normal human food. And otherwise, their anatomy is kind of similar, but a little bit different. And there's also a group among them, though, unfortunately, who cannot eat books, okay? They are supposed to normally eat books, but they're not able to, and they are called mind eaters instead, because the only way that they survive is by eating people's brains. Like, not actually literally eating the brain part. Like, they basically suck out all your thoughts and memories and everything that's going on in there and basically turn you into a vegetable. And most of this plot is about the main character, Devon, and you find out over time that she has a son who ends up being one of those mind eaters, and she's trying to find the cure for him because there is like a pill thing that they can take instead where they can eat books normally, but he got unlucky and they ran out, and so she was trying to find a trail of who has the miracle pills and all that. So this book was actually pretty good. I did like this a lot, and I would say overall I would give this book 4.5 stars. The only things for me that I felt like kind of held it back, because the world building was really strong in this, and I did like how well the main character, Devon, felt fleshed out. Like, there was a lot of chapters that were in the present, what's going on with her and her son, and then stuff in the past of what led up to that point. So you kind of figure out things slowly over time. I didn't mind that format. It was good for me. But there was a couple things there where I thought... the love interest, kind of, I say that with quotes because it's complicated, but kind of a love interest that's introduced for the main character. I thought she could have been more fleshed out. The book wasn't really about that, so fair, you could say, but I feel like I just needed a little bit more from their dynamic. And I also thought that the children, like, it's funny, she's doing all these things for her son, but I don't feel like her son gets fully fleshed out 100% as a character. And then, without spoiling too much, she does also technically have a daughter who she's not allowed to see. And we don't get literally anything on this daughter. We don't know shit. And it's kind of sad. Like, I feel like that's the thing. The ending, I needed better closure with that. I had hoped that Devin would have been able to be reunited with her, but that's not really something that happened. But the ending itself as it was did make sense to me, so it is what it is. But yeah, that is the Book Eaters. So give me 1 second here before I get into this next one, because it's I have thoughts, I have feelings, I don't know. The next book that I read during the month of September was this one. This is Children of Anguish and Anarchy. And this is the third and last book in the series by Tomi Adeyemi. This is, if you're thinking this might seem familiar, her first book in this series was called Children of Blood and Bone. And I think at this point in time, where it still stands, that first book was honestly the best of them, okay? This last book, I don't even remember what I gave the second book in the series, but I think currently at this time, I think this book is just a solid 3. That's it. It's just sad how a lot of people hype up certain authors in the very beginning of their careers, and then there's a lot of pressure and everything that happens, and they're just not able to produce either good second books or in this case, a third book. But in this book, it continues what happens in the second one, where the main character or characters, because let me explain that. One of the reasons why I wasn't 100% a fan of this book is that by this one, I thought there were too many characters. I'm not usually someone who says that. I read fantasy, guys, okay? I generally read fantasy. You guys see this. I don't normally think a cast is too fucking big, but by the end of this book, I thought, man, these are too many fucking characters going on in here. I had scrambled up with who is who, and I was just so tired, okay? This cast is way too big. The POV in this book is split between 4 characters already, okay? I think in the first book, there was only 3 of them at most, but I don't even think that. I think it might have been only 2 of them. I don't remember. But by this book, there's 4 main characters, and the other issue is that the chapters are way too short. So all the chapters were short, too big of characters. I feel a whiplash, like they're going from one place to the next, but it just seems like a lot is happening. And yet at the same time, if you look here, oh, it has beautiful edges though. But if you look here, this book is not very big. This is the last book, and it's this small. This is small. It's like, if you're going to do an ending book, you need to be able to wrap things all up quickly, yes, but it should be more than the size of this book. I think this book was only 350 pages at most, which was not enough for this, especially because it started introducing this whole other concept where the main characters, as was like Zelly and Amari and her brother Zane, Zelly's brother Zane and Amari's brother Inan, right? Okay, they were taken prisoner on the ship, sailing to God knows where. They didn't know. And they figure out this plot with the people who captured them, who were basically trying to vanquish everybody around them. They were trying to be conquerors. The people in question are basically very Viking coded, okay? Viking coded. Fine, whatever. And they're conquering all these people who are black and brown, okay? That's a narrative we know, and that sucks. And it's like, okay, I don't know where this was coming from, though, because originally they were fighting, the people of this country were just fighting themselves, and then they turned it into this other thing. And it was just a lot. I think a lot was happening, but not enough pages to explain and give a lot of nuanced detail. But the other thing that kind of annoyed me was, if that wasn't enough, that there's like this whole other group of people who are they're the main villains now for this third book, just for this third book, by the way, Justin, who are trying to conquer all these other countries. You have another country that's introduced in this book, and it is called New Gaia, okay? And this country in question is Brazilian coded, okay? Brazilian coded. And because of this, the people in this book have lines in Portuguese. Here's the issue here. As somebody who is Portuguese, and specifically someone who is Portuguese from the mainland, I am here to tell you today, guys, that you cannot just use certain phrases in things without people from the same language, like who use the same language, questioning you, without fact checking if that shit makes sense. I'm just gonna say it straight up. Specifically in here, there was a word used that I think is more Brazilian slang to use it in the way this author claimed it was used for, which is not used in the mainland, which is the issue at question. Basically, she has one of the characters say the word garotas. She was saying garotas to her. They were like handmaidens. I understood that she was trying to say girls, like she was trying to call them to her, like, girls, come here. The thing is, you can't use that word to say that, because in European and Azorian Portuguese, that word basically means that she was calling them brats. That's not what she was trying to say, but that's what she did. She had it that that the character in question was calling the girls brats. That, I don't understand how you don't fact check that to see if that's actually the word that you should be using. And even then with language, you have to understand, in theory, I think the word that should have been used was meninas, okay? Because if you use that word, it's okay in Azorian Portuguese, it's okay in mainland Portuguese, and it would be okay and accurate to use in Brazilian Portuguese. You don't have to use the word that she used, because that was obviously the wrong word. So things like that took me out of the story, because it's just the wrong usage of the words. Or maybe it's okay to say in Brazil, but you can't. If somebody speaks that language and you know that word has a negative connotation in the same, again, it's people of the same language, you're going to come into problems. So I don't think this book was edited very well, and that's also very disappointing. So for that reason, like I said, giving this one a 3. Okay, moving on from books, we are now going to go into tarot, or in this case, oracle decks that I used in the month of September. Sorry that it's already 27 minutes into this video, but anyways, the first deck that I used during the month of September was this one. This is Thistledown. Now, I used this last year, I think it was in November of last year. So obviously there's reasons why I picked this deck to use during this month. First off, these are the backs and these are the fronts. Thistledown is another Three Trees Tarot deck, but it is specifically their only oracle they have out so far. I love this one, actually. It reminds me of fall time, and that's why I picked it to read with, you know. And it just works really well. This year, I kind of just felt like using it in September. The color gradient and everything is kind of relevant right now. I don't know. And it works really well. I think the keywords are strong, and I don't necessarily need to, what's the word? I don't have to fight with this deck to understand what it's trying to tell me. I can pull a few of them at a time, like a few of the cards at a time, and that's also not an issue. So I don't want to say too much of this because, again, I have used this in the past. But I just want to show it off that, yeah, this is what I used in September. But then, if we're going to look at Beyond Oracle, what other decks did I use during the month of September? We have quite a few here. I kind of wait, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe I didn't cheat. I don't know why I thought I cheated. I don't know. Anyways. I used a few decks during the month of September. I'm going to start with the smallest of them. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this too. My card for the month of September was the Wheel of Fortune, and that sucked ass, and I felt that very roughly. But this deck kind of helped a little bit with some friends, some people, when I gave readings for. This is the mini version of, oh my goodness, why is my brain blanking on this? This is called not Modern Witch. Why the hell did I think it was that? It's a Llewellyn deck, guys. Please, somebody help me out. I don't know why my brain has lost the plot. But I know it has witch in the name, okay? I know it has witch in the name. Don't come for me. I can't right now. The Wheel of Fortune working. It's terrible magic. This deck. I use this deck during the month of September. I mainly use it as a travel deck though. And yeah, also read with for some people. Some at work, some was literally at the beach during one of our excursions things that I had. And I don't know, this one always works. I think I pulled this out last September or maybe used it in October. Not sure. Don't know why the name still is not coming to me. Usually I remember what the hell my decks are called. But yeah. I mean, it doesn't help that I have it in a little bag. So it's not like it's easy to always remember. But this one's cute. Every card in it has a witch and a cat. And it's a fun time. It just gets you into the spoopy season without being too spoopy. So it felt like a good September deck. So yeah, I also used this one. And let's get into some decks that I actually do remember the names of right now, because holy shit, why am I forgetting everything? I guess as I'm in the weird subliminal hour. You guys don't know this as I'm watching this, but I'm like literally filming in my afternoon. Normally I film in the mornings and I'm more coherent. Don't know what's happening right now. But anyways, next deck that I used during the month of September was the This Might Hurt Tarot. As you can see, I have an indie copy, but this deck is mass market now. You guys can have it mass market instead. The indie copy, though, has these holographic dark edges, or at least my version of it is. There's also a version that has holographic pearlescent looking edges. These are the backs. They're black and white. And these are the fronts. I didn't use this deck a whole lot. I feel like I use this deck mostly for like one tarot reading, and then I did that video where I was talking about literal tarot cards, and I also used that deck in the video. Oh wait, no, I did do another reading with this deck. What the hell was that one? It was from one of my books. I found a random reading and I decided to use this deck for it, and I think it worked pretty well. I will say general consensus people seem to have with this deck is that it, in the name, it said this might hurt, right? It gives you the truth that you kind of need to hear. I don't think it's necessarily one way or the other, though. I don't think it's like overtly harsh as it claims, but it's not really soft either. I don't know. It's very neutral, maybe very air, even though like the colors would say otherwise. But it's got a very swords vibe, so yeah, maybe it is very air. And yeah, I don't think I did a crazy lot with this, but I don't know. It was fun. It was fun to start with this one. I think we're building an interesting relationship. I don't know when I'm going to pull this deck out again, though, just being transparent. Because I feel like it's one of those where it's either going to be situational or I'll only have a need to pull it out in the fall, but we'll see how that goes. So this might hurt. Then I'm deciding here which one to show. I think I'm going to go with this one. This big freaking box. Okay, this is a Cosmic Wisdom Tarot. This is an Ethony deck. This is my only Ethony deck. It has a big guidebook like this and like this. And I've got to be honest here. I've only used this deck once during the month of September. It has these edges. They're also kind of holographic. It's like a very light yellow gold kind of look. Very holographic. These are the back, sorry. Has a foiling. And these are the fronts. Now, I love the artwork of this deck. This is why I was attracted to this deck. I loved the art, first and foremost. And I also like that this deck is diverse. You got diverse looking people, different walks of life, all of that in this deck. And I think the artwork is stunning. But I only used this deck once because I don't know what it was. I wasn't called to use this deck again. And because this is also, I've had this more phenomenon recently with decks that are very closely RWS looking clones, because this kind of, it does some things that are different, but then you have like the Eight of Wands like this, which is not very different from traditional, but this one is different, right? With decks that I feel like give off a more RWS clone vibe, I've noticed that I feel more called to pull for them if I'm going to read for other people. I don't know what it is, but this deck gives me vibes of it's better to read for other people more than it is to read for me. I don't know when the hell I would take this deck around to read for other people yet, but I don't know. It just feels like it's going to be more of that kind of situation. And I don't know how often I'm going to want to pull for myself. So we will see. I guess I wasn't called to it, but it's definitely got that like late summer, early fall vibe in my mind, like based on colors. So that's why I try to use it in the month of September. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't 100% hit for me. I'm not saying like I did a lot of tarot in the month of September, but like considering after August I had done a lot, and it's even hard to put back in this box, but then I didn't do as much this month. I just didn't feel called. So is what it is. Cosmic Wisdom. Next up, I also used during the month of September this deck. This is Heartwood. So this is another Three Trees Tarot deck. This is their newest. This deck, to be honest, this deck is a behemoth, especially if you have small hands. This is me trying to struggle to get my fingers around it. These are the backs. Backs are beautiful. But I noticed with this deck that I was having some issues, and I only use this deck also like one time. The artwork in this deck is beautiful. It definitely gives fall vibes, straight up. This was one of the reasons why I picked this deck. But I found myself having a weird experience with this deck when I read it. It did not 100% jive with me, and I don't know if that was just because I was having a weird time in general when I did the reading, like it was just not a good lifetime, but I just didn't have a great interaction with this deck, so that's kind of disappointing. But the artwork is beautiful, so it's like, what the hell's happening? So the fact that it gave me to be honest, I felt like a kind of snarky reading, which was very strange. It predicted just like things that were, it was just not a great week for the reading, right? And coupled with the fact that this deck, you know, as somebody who has smaller hands, right? Look I can barely get my fingers around parts of it, like because it's hard to grip. And by the way, this is already when some of the cards are down. Because it's like that, it's just not as fun of an experience, which is kind of sad. Because again, this artwork is like great. I just hope maybe what I need to do is in the future, hopefully, they will eventually do mini versions of all their decks, just like the Oak, Ash, and Thorn. And then I will be able to pick this deck up and it'll be just more user-friendly. Not to say I'm completely getting rid of this deck or like, I don't know. Yeah, it's not to say I'm completely getting rid of this deck. I just think that it's going to be one of those where I need it to give somewhere in order for me to use it or to be more likely to pick it up again in the future. It definitely gives me the fall vibes though. So this is definitely a deck I would pick up mostly in the fall. I probably wouldn't gravitate towards it any other time of the year. But I don't know. Maybe I just need to try again, I think. But it's just frustrating. Like, I know that's a silly reason to some, but yeah, if you're struggling to get look, I can't even, guys, this hurts. Like, I can't even get my top finger around the rest of the deck. And that's just not fun. Like, we tarot readers, we like to be able to use decks accordingly. You know, you need to be able to use them. They are your tools. And so if it's hard to use a deck, then yeah, you're just less likely to pick it up. So is what it is. But the last deck I used in the month of September was this one. This is my Magical Creatures Tarot. I only use this for a couple of readings. And the thing with that was, at first I wasn't sure how I felt about the reading, one of the readings I got with it. But then immediately after doing the second reading I did with it, I felt a need to use it again. But I was like, wait. I'm moving on. I'm moving into October. There's other decks here. And I think I already know, spoilers, I will probably be using this deck again in November, potentially. I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting, is use it again in November. But these are the beautiful backs. These are the fronts. This deck, by the way, if you didn't recognize by the bag, the Magical Creatures Tarot is the second deck created by Wilder Heart Studio. This is the same creators of the Northern Animal Tarot, which you guys already know I love, but haven't actually used this yet. Used this year. That's very strange. Anyways, this deck recently came out on Kickstarter. It has really nice linen finish that's like really easy for basically anybody to shuffle. And this deck, if you couldn't tell by the name, is themed on magical creatures and has a lot of extra nice cards like this one, the Magic Wand. And I like it. I like it a lot. I think I will be using it in November again. I don't know what it is. I just kind of want to. If not November, the backs are giving me December vibes for some reason. But I don't know. I think I'll probably be doing a reading with this for something or other. And it's just so, I love it. I love a lot of the little Easter eggs. I do have a walkthrough, flip through kind of thing with this deck. So if you're curious about my full thoughts, you should watch that and then come back here. I don't know. But I really do like this one. I just only used it a couple of times. It was like a slow burn, to be honest. I got it and I really liked it when I first got it, but I wasn't sure how it was going to read. So like the first time I read with it, I was like, I don't know. But then like, yeah, by the second reading or so I did, or like the interview I did with it or something, it just ended up a bit better than I thought it would. So I really like this one. And I'm excited to use this again. And again, the cardstock is just so nice. It's nice to have this linen finish. My copy of the Northern Animal Tarot was the first printing of the 3rd edition, where it had a different cardstock entirely. It was this, what was it? It's like this really thick, or not really thick, but like it made the deck very chunky, whatever the cardstock was. That was very water resistant, actually. And I do like the texture of that one for some reason, but I do prefer linen overall. So I think this is like the nicer tactile feel overall. And of course, with linen too, if you have smaller hands, it's easier to grip around them, and you can actually grip around them. So yeah, that was September. A lot of stuff. And then I had the Wheel of Fortune, an up and down month, but it is what it is. And if you were watching this long, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to peace out because I think I'm done for today and I need to eat some food. So I will see you guys all again next time. Bye.